Hello friends, I CA Kamakshi Khandelwal welcome you all to my next session in GST. My topic for today's deliberation is reverse charge. In this I would be covering aspects like what is reverse charge, who is liable to pay tax under reverse charge, what will be the time of supply, who is required to issue invoice under reverse charge, whether the recipient can claim the benefit of ITC of the tax paid in case of reverse charge. So this is going to be a very interesting topic. Without making any further delay, let's start. First, what is the meaning of reverse charge? According to Section 2 Clause 98 of the CGST Act 2017, reverse charge means the liability to pay tax by the recipient of the goods or services instead of the supplier of the goods or services under Section 9 subsection 3 and 4 of the CGST Act or Section 5 subsection 3 and 4 of the IGST Act. Now let us understand what does Section 9 subsection 3 says. It says the government may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify categories of supplies of goods or services or both, the tax on which shall be paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient of such goods or services, and all the provisions of this Act shall apply to such recipient as if he is the person liable for paying the tax in relation to the supply of such goods or services. So, by virtue of Section 9 subsection 3, the government in its 14th GST Council meeting has notified 13 services on which reverse charge is applicable. These are: first, taxable services provided or agreed to be provided by any person who is located in a non-taxable territory and received by any person located in the taxable territory other than non-assessee online recipient. Second, service provided by GTA in respect of transportation of goods. Third, legal services provided by an individual advocate or a firm of advocates or an arbitral tribunal. Fourth is sponsorship service. Fifth, service provided by a government or a local authority. Next, service provided by a director of a company or a body corporate to the said company or body corporate. Next, service by an insurance agent to any person carrying on the insurance business. Next, services provided or agreed to be provided by a recovery agent to a banking company or a financial institution or a non-banking financial company. Next, services by the way of transportation of goods from a vessel from a place outside India up to the customs station clearance in India. Next, transfer or permitting the use or enjoyment of a copyright, radio taxi or passenger transport service provided through e-commerce operators. So, in respect of these services, GST shall be paid by the recipient of the service, and if the recipient is unregistered, then it will have to mandatorily get itself registered by virtue of Clause 3 of Section 24 of the CGST Act 2017 in order to discharge the GST liability. Now, coming over to the next section, Section 9 subsection 4. It says the central tax in respect of supply of taxable goods or services or both by a supplier who is unregistered to a registered person shall be paid by such person on reverse charge basis as the recipient, and all the provisions of this Act shall apply to such recipient as if he is the person liable for paying the tax in relation to the supply of such goods or services or both. This is the universal section and the most dangerous section. It says reverse charge is applicable in case of supply of goods or service from an unregistered person to a registered person, and the registered person shall be liable to pay the tax on the goods or services so procured. Meaning thereby, now I would be liable to pay tax under reverse charge even on the smallest expenses like having a tea from a local vendor, getting a photocopy done from a small shop. Think of a scenario of a company having more than 10,000 invoices for petty expenses incurred by their employees on purchasing stationery, housekeeping stuff, etc. How will these be accounted for in the books of accounts of the company? This is going to be a huge task. See such a huge impact this section is having on each and every entity, whether small or big. For this, let us understand who is going to be a registered person in GST in the case of reverse charge. According to section 22, a person whose aggregate taxable turnover is more than 20 lakh shall obtain registration. For the purpose of computing the aggregate taxable turnover, all the taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export of goods or services or both, interstate supplies of goods or services shall be taken into consideration on all India basis, but it shall not include the services in respect of which the tax is payable on reverse charge. So, a person whose aggregate turnover is more than rupees 20 lakh shall only obtain registration. Having said that, Clause 3 of Section 24 of the CGST Act 2017 states that a person who is required to pay tax under reverse charge shall mandatorily get itself registered irrespective of the threshold limit. Let us understand this provision with the help of an example. Let's say I'm an advocate and I'm procuring goods or services from an unregistered person. Currently, I'm not registered in GST as the arbitral services provided by me to business entities is covered under reverse charge. So, in this case, the business entity being the recipient is liable to pay tax on the reverse charge basis, and when I am providing services to individual, then that is exempt in GST. So, now the question is, will I be required to get myself registered and pay tax under reverse charge? For this, let's go back to section 9 subsection 4. It says that reverse charge is applicable only if the supply of goods or services is made from an unregistered person to a registered person, and the recipient shall be liable to pay tax in respect of the goods or services. So in my example, I am not registered in GST. Thus, I would not be mandatorily required to get myself registered by virtue of Clause 3 of Section 24 of the CGST Act, and therefore, I would not be required to pay tax under reverse charge. Hope I am clear to all on this. Now, moving over to the next provision, what will be the time of supply in case of reverse charge? Section 12 of the CGST Act 2017 determines the time of supply in respect of goods. It says, time of supply shall be the earliest of the date of receipt of goods or the date on which the payment is entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or the date on which the payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier, or the date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. So let's understand this with the help of an example. On 25th May 2017, I have purchased some stationery from an unregistered dealer. On 26th May 2017, I received the stationery in my office. I have made the payment for the stationery, say on 1st June 2017. Now, I am liable to pay GST under reverse charge since I have procured goods from an unregistered person. Now, what will be the time of supply in such a scenario? In this case, the time of supply will be 26th May 2017, that is the date of receipt of goods, being earliest of all the three events. Now, let us take up the time of supply in respect of services. Section 13 of the CGST Act states the time of supply shall be the earliest of the date on which the payment is debited in the books of accounts of the recipient, or the date on which the payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier, or the date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. Let's take up an example. I'm a goods transportation agency and providing services to you. Since reverse charge is applicable on GTA service, thus you as the recipient is liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Let's say the date of provision of service and the date of issue of invoice is 25th May 2017. The date of payment is 10th June 2017. Now what will be the time of supply in such a scenario? In this case, the time of supply would be the date of payment, that is 10th June 2017. Now let us assume you have not made the payment to me within 60 days. So now the time of supply shall be 60 days from the date of issue of invoice, that is 26 July 2017. Now coming over to the next question. Who is required to issue invoice under reverse charge? The recipient of the supply is required to issue tax invoice for goods or services received from unregistered person according to section 31 clause 2 subclause F. The recipient is also required to issue a payment voucher at the time of making payment to the unregistered supplier according to section 31 subsection 2 clause G. Now coming over to my next question. Will the recipient be eligible to avail the input tax credit of the tax paid in the case of reverse charge? According to section 2 clause 62 of the CGST Act, input tax includes the tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 9 of the CGST Act, or the tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 5 of the IGST Act, the tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 9 of the respective SGST Act, or the tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 7 of the UTGST Act. Therefore, a registered person will be eligible to claim the ITC of the tax paid in the case of reverse charge. So, with this, I finish up with all the provisions relating to reverse charge. Hope you all found it useful and interesting. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel CA Kamakshi Khandelwal for more videos on GST. Have a nice day. Thank you.